Hello and welcome to Phillip Island. This gem of a circuit sits on the edge of the Wild Bass Strait, just off the southeastern tip of Australia, about 2 hours south of the culture capital of Melbourne. This wonderful area of the world is known for unspoiled coastlines, the 12 apostles, curious local wildlife, and the magical Phillip Island Penguin Parade. But today we're here for something a little bit louder. Of course, it's the start of the 30th Motul FIM Superbike World Championship season, and what a place to start. This impressive circuit is 4.445 kilometres long on 2.762 miles. It has a total of 12 corners with a nice divider of 5 rights and 7 left-hand bends. There's a huge mixture of fast and flowing corners, and then a couple of tight hairpins just to keep the riders and teams on their toes with setup. It first hosted a World Superbike round in 1990, and we've had a total of 53 races here at this magnificent circuit, with Australians always doing exceedingly well, but it's looking particularly British this year. The first sector takes from the start, finish straight down to the exit of Turn 2, with then the second sector bringing us just to the exit of Siberia, Turn 6. Sector 3 is all up, it's gaining before dropping down into MG, with the final sector then taking us through MG and the incredible Turn 11-12 combination onto the long Gardner Straight. Jonathan Rea did the double here last year and will be looking to recreate that, but that man there, Chaz Davies, along with a fair few others, is looking to stand in his way. We haven't raced since the 30th of October in Qatar, but 2 days of official Superbike testing and the build-up to this weekend have allowed everyone to blow off the cobwebs and get back up to speed. Jonathan Rea is looking for a third straight title after moving to Kawasaki in 2015, but he's facing more competition than ever. It's not going to be easy for him, but he can guarantee it'll be a great show for everybody watching along at home. 2017 presents the most competitive field we've ever seen in World Superbike, with no less than 7 world titles and a plethora of domestic crowns between these fast 21 riders. This is the first stop on a trip which will take us around the world, from Australia to Thailand to Spain, America, Qatar, and everywhere in between, over 13 rounds and 26 action-packed races, the very first of which is just moments away. Let's get the Yamaha Finance Australian round underway. My name is Harry Lloyd, and joining me for the first race of the year is Steve English. It's a year of shake-ups, there's so many changes. It's hard to know where to begin, but I think the most important thing is the incredible Superpole session we saw just a few moments ago, with this man here absolutely obliterating the previous lap record set by his teammate last year to take pole position. Jonathan Rea hasn't had too many poles. That was just the 9th in his pretty long Superbike career, obviously stepping up first full-time year in 2009. That's just his 9th Superpole, but what a Superpole it was. He said he wanted to drop into the 129s, and boy did he, with a 129.573. He's looked strong throughout testing, strong throughout free practice, and you have to say the number 1 looks set to potentially keep that title here. He's won 3 out of the last 4 races at Phillip Island. He may be starting on pole for race 1, but Steve, race 2 is going to be absolutely incredible tomorrow, as we of course do have the new rules coming into effect, where if you finish on the podium, your positions will then be flipped and you'll be moved to the 3rd row of the grid. So if you win the race, you will start 9th. Marco Melandri here, he'll be starting from the front row. He's back in Superbikes after 2 years away from the paddock, half year in MotoGP, then a year pretty much doing no racing, but he is looking like he's been racing full-time in Superbikes, as he's secured front row straight back to where he left off in this championship.
Yeah, and this is where we get to see really just how strong Marco Melandri is. We've seen the 1-lap pace the whole way through testing. We've seen decent race runs as well in testing, but what difference does it make once he's actually out here in the thick of battle up against the likes of Davis, the likes of Rea, the likes of Tom Sykes? It's going to be interesting to see exactly what Marco Melandri can do in that kind of situation.
Exactly, especially because Marco Melandri said himself that he hasn't done a race simulation yet, especially at this Phillip Island circuit, which can be so tricky with tyres. You and I were having a conversation with some colleagues yesterday, and you were saying, what was it, around about lap 8 you expect the tyres to drop off?
Yeah, from talking to a few of the riders, they say that probably about 1/3 distance we'll see the tyres just drop off a bit of performance, and then round about lap 14, 15, that's where we see a big drop, and that's where most of the riders are starting to go from mid-31s out to the 32s for some. But for the pace of the race winners and the race leaders, it's probably going to start off somewhere in the mid-30s, maybe even the low 30s, and then push out towards the 31s in the latter stages. If you look at what Jonathan Rea and Chaz Davis were able to do throughout yesterday's practice sessions, Jonathan did the first few laps in the mid to high 1 minute 30s and then put in a string of 1 minute 31s. Chaz Davis did all of his laps in a 1:31 whenever he was doing his longest run, which was 16 laps for Davis, 19 laps for Jonathan Rea. But it's this man, Alex Lowes, that's the only guy that's actually done a race simulation around Phillip Island this week. Lowes did that during the early week test on Tuesday, and gives him a bit of information about what to expect from the tyres as the race progresses. Because when you look at the conditions, we saw the graphic that came up, just how warm the track temperature is. We're into 40 degrees track temperature now, and it's going to be a big challenge for these guys just to make the Pirelli tyres last throughout the course of the 22-lap race.
Exactly, that temperature is going to make it so tricky. We saw Lowes, he's starting 5th on the grid, but he was also under lap record pace, which shows just how formidable all of this grid is that you can be under last year's lap record and still only be starting 5th. But there is Alex Lowes, looking pretty happy, pretty quietly confident. He's out for a top 5 at least this weekend, and I think we're going to see him, maybe settle for 6th just to start the year with a nice solid result and then just slowly start building. You can't win a championship in the first round, but you can certainly lose one.
And for Lowes, we've seen throughout the weekend, it looked like him and Javi Fares were probably set to race alongside each other and fight with each other through this race. But Fares had a crash during Superpole. He's going to start 8th, and as I was walking back up through the pit lane after the Supersport qualifying session, you could see the team still working on that bike, just getting it ready. You can see Chaz Davis now just getting himself ready. Quick chat with his engineers just before he makes his way out to the grid. The pit lane will open in 2 minutes, and that's when we'll start to see everyone form up on the grid.
Exactly, Chaz Davies having to work really hard on that Ducati, but that's how Davies likes it. He likes it a bit loose. He likes the rear sort of squirming around underneath him. When Davies is looking at his most wild, that's often when he's going his fastest. We saw in qualifying he had a bit of a big moment, managed to keep it upright into turn 4, the rear just sliding about a bit too much. But no worries for the Welsh Dragon, Chaz Davies there, number 7 on that Aruba.it Ducati. Just so many names to watch out for in this race. It's going to be a hard-fought one, and with the track just continuing to get hotter and hotter, it is hugely demanding on the tyres. What can this man here, Tom Sykes, do? He's never really gotten on with the Phillip Island circuit. It's not been one of his favourites. Tom Sykes has won pretty much everywhere, but never had any great success here, unfortunately, for him. He's formidable at pretty much any track we go to, but you always start the season knowing, okay, Sykes isn't going to be super strong here, but he'll come good during the year. Yeah,
Sykes at Phillip Island, it's always been a bogey track for him, and this weekend, unfortunately, it looks like it's a continuation of that, but the issue for Sykes is how close can he stay in that lead battle? Can he stick with the likes of Marco Melandri, Chaz Davis, Jonathan Rea? I can't imagine him being in the fight for the win, but he could potentially still be in the fight for the podium. Last year, we saw him finish inside the top 5, and really that's probably he should be able to achieve that a bit easier this year, given that the Hondas are struggling this weekend. You can see number 69, Nicky Hayden here, just coming into the last corner, and Hayden's been able to set some decent one-lap times every now and then on the Honda, but he's going to start 11th on the grid, and really that's about as strong as I think anyone could have expected from the Honda this weekend.
Hayden and Stefan Bradl, his teammate, unfortunately not super happy with his bike, as we say. Nicky Hayden will be starting from 11th with Stefan Bradl a row behind in 15th. Both of those guys really struggling to get that new bike up to speed. They only got that bike a couple of weeks before testing, so weren't able to do much work with it. We were actually talking to one of our Dorna colleagues, Alan, last night, and she had heard that they weren't going to get that bike until Aragon originally. So, this scenario that they're currently in is better than it was first thought. This is another man who's sort of making the best of a bad situation. Leon Camier lost almost all of Friday to an engine issue. Bit of a technical issue. I asked Camier about it. He didn't quite know what the problem was, but they seem to have solved it now. And he put in a pretty commendable performance to get 9th on the grid.
Yeah, Camier on the 3rd row, and decent performance by him, given that he missed pretty much all of yesterday's running. The bike basically seems to have a good working setup around here, but how it's going to react over 22 laps when Camier hasn't been able to really put together anything more than a handful of laps so far this weekend. You can see Eugene Laverty just going down pit lane now as well. Laverty, a crash during Superpole 1 in the early stages. Thumbs up from the Irishman, but it's been a difficult return to World Superbikes for the man that's returning on the Aprilia, a bike that he's won on at Phillip Island in the past, and he's also won here on a Suzuki. So we know he's strong at this track, but obviously still some work to be done on the Aprilia.
Yep, of course, the Aprilia has taken a total of 6 wins here at Phillip Island, with the first coming way back in 2000 with Troy Corser on board, and then they won 5 times between 2012 and 2015. So here's a man who hasn't won here, nor has the BMW ever won here at Phillip Island. Geordie Torres looking pretty strong throughout testing and practice, just continuing that consistency he had last year. Qualified 7th on the grid. I'm not sure he has the pace to fight for the podium, but I think that a top 5, especially if somebody has some issues with the heat and the tyres, could be a real possibility for Torres, who last year only failed to finish in 1 race.
Yeah, Torres has shown decent pace as well during his longer runs throughout this weekend. Being able to comfortably get into the 131s whenever he's tried to do a longer stint, so we'll wait and see if he's able to spend most of the race. Now, we know that on the basis of what Alex Lowes has been able to do in some of his long runs, that he's quite comfortable in the 131s, but with the track temperature rising, it's going to be harder and harder for these guys to get the grip and keep those fast lap times.
Exactly, and that's another thing Marco Melandri was also saying about his return to Superbikes, is that physically he's not sure how he himself is going to last over 22 laps. Of course, all of these guys are, super fit world-class athletes, but there's nothing that really prepares you for riding a fire-breathing superbike around a circuit like Phillip Island for 22 laps when it's this hot.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone spends their winter just getting themselves physically ready and training as hard as they can, but nothing quite matches what happens whenever you're going racing, and usually takes riders a couple of rounds just to get themselves fully back up to speed, get their mind back up to speed for racing. But the guys at the front, we always see have strong performances here at Phillip Island. It's a track that does generate close racing, does generate exciting racing for the fans, and you can see Chaz Davies now just easing his way towards the grid, where he'll line up 4th on the grid for Chaz. A strong qualifying effort from a man not known for always being a good qualifier.
Exactly, pretty solid effort from Davies there. Nothing to shout about. Also, that rear camera facing forward is going to be absolutely stunning into turn 1 with him starting in 4th. I'm sure we're going to see some great action in front of us. Davies started 9th here last year and got on the podium in the first race. So starting from 4th, no worries.
Yeah, and you can see a couple of different onboard shots from Chaz Davies's bike as well this weekend. Lots more onboard shots on the World Feed this year, and really impressive work throughout the week so far, but it's all coming down to race day now, Harry, and first race of the season, first race back for this man, Marco Melandri, on the number 33 Ducati. And Melandri, a former 250 GP champion, he was a vice champion in MotoGP in 125s. He's had some really strong performances in World Superbikes as well, and he's come back on the Ducati, looks happy right from the start, but going to face a challenge today to be able to match this man, Jonathan Rea, on pole position. As you said, Harry, Jonathan's won 3 of the last 4 races here at Phillip Island, but with Chaz Davies starting 4th, you'd imagine that Davies will be able to be right there with him once again.
Yep, and a fun little fact for you, out of the last 29 seasons, 16 of those seasons, the winner of the opening race has gone on to win the title. So certainly a bit of, maybe a bit of superstition for some of these riders, and always great to get your championship kick-started with a victory. Of course, as we said, up until now, Jonathan Rea's title defence has been off to a perfect start, been, pretty much top of every session.
You can see Jonathan Rea now just about to receive his Tissot watch for the Tissot Super Pole victory for the Northern Irishman. It's his 9th pole position in his World Superbike career.
Yep, and there we can see Brent Sharp of the Swatch Group Australia handing him that Super Pole, and now signing the camera. Lovely little signature band. Oh, beautiful little kiss from Jonathan Rea. That's how you want to wake up in the morning, with a nice kiss on the cheek from the world champion. So great little insight there for everybody. As you can see, the grid is action-packed. Chaz Davies here leading that second row. Beautiful helmet design for Davies. Davies always has helmet designs that just really pop out from the crowd. Slightly different design this year, but he'll be looking to make it so that we can almost hardly see that helmet design with how fast he's going a little later today.
And you can see from Davies' stat line that he's looking for his 50th podium in World Superbikes. His teammate Marco Melandri on the same number of podiums as well, so could potentially be a milestone day for both Ducati riders, but really for Chaz Davies, it's the win that he's chasing here this weekend at Phillip Island. But the Welshman, he's been strong throughout the weekend, as you'd expect. He spent the winter just trying to fine-tune that Ducati and get the most from the package, but he was working on different areas at all times. Finally, this week, he's put the jigsaw together to give him what he thinks is the best bike for the opening round here at Phillip Island. And Tom Sykes A rider with a very big challenge this year, Harry.
Huge.
We've seen him up against Jonathan Rea the last couple of years. We've seen him beaten pretty comfortably by his teammate both years. But we've also seen over the winter that Tom Sykes has said, finally, I need to change my style. I need to adjust. And I need to take more of what Jonathan does on this bike and try and bring that to my own riding.
And of course, there's a fair few technical changes that Tom Sykes hasn't been the biggest fan of this year. Teams are now no longer able to split the throttle body, which is affecting Kawasaki and MV Agusta. Sykes not the biggest fan of that. Jonathan saying, you know, it actually gives me back more feel. I'm not too unhappy with it. So a lot for Sykes to do this year. Here we see Spanish Elvis, number 7, Jordi Torres, perhaps the happiest man on the grid at all times. He lines up at the head of the third row in 7th place, leading BMW with his teammate a little further down the grid in 12th. There we see Chaz Davies with the best lap from last year.
So the Pirelli Best Lap Award given to the rider with the fastest lap in any given race, and Chaz Davies won that award last year in what was a tremendous finish to the season for the Welshman. He won 7 of the last 8 races, but he's been completely aware that when the season starts now, it's from a blank sheet of paper and it counts for nothing what he did in 2016. Xavi Fares, 8th on the grid. We saw Fares have a crash during Superpole, and unfortunately for the Spaniard, just robbed him of the chance of maybe qualifying where we've been expecting him to qualify this weekend. He's been top 5 all weekend, so he has the pace, but the question mark is going to be just how much that crash has affected him.
Exactly, a good start is going to be really crucial for Flores, because I think if he can get with the likes of Lowe's and Salvadori, then he can battle for that top 5, but if he gets bogged down behind people, I think he's going to have a really hard time catching them. Leon Camier, another one to keep an eye out on. Camier just continues to do really impressive things aboard that MV Agusta, as we said this weekend, right off yesterday with that engine leaking oil and forcing him to go back into the pits. Then they couldn't quite fix the problem for FP2, so he got about 8 laps, still managed to set the 13th fastest time overall, had to come through Superpole 1, did that, no worries, and now he is starting in 9th on the grid. And here we have Nicky Hayden starting in 11th. They're just talking to Australian media. Nicky Hayden has always gotten on so well with the Phillip Island circuit. Of course, he was here replacing Danny Pedrosa last year in MotoGP, fighting for the top 10 for an incident with Jack Miller. But Hayden not so happy now.
Yeah, you could see there from Nicky's stat line that that one win in the wet conditions at Sepang last year, but did make his World Championship debut in 2002 whenever he was racing in the AMA Championship on a Honda before he moved into MotoGP. And as a former MotoGP champion, never one to be underestimated. But it's going to be a tough opening rounds to the season for the American, just as the team try and get their head around that Honda. It's a big change for them.
There we have number 32, starting 6th place, Lorenzo Salvadori, perhaps the luckiest man on the grid after an absolutely massive moment on Friday. Somehow just managed to save it. We've seen so many riders in the past have some pretty big knocks ahead of the opening round and really suffer, but Salvadori lucky to stay on and has put in a pretty good performance. He's been really, really nice and strong throughout testing and has gone on to deliver that with 6th on the grid. Here is Markus Reiterberger, the German. Number 21, 30 starts for his 22, made his debut back in 2013. Looking much better than he did last year. Last year's season, too many crashes, interrupted by injury, made a bit of progress, but now it seems like he's really made a solid step.
Yeah, that injury in his crash at Misano really held him back, but there was times last year where Reiterberger showed a lot of promise. Coincidentally, whenever he went to new circuits such as Sepang or when we went to Lausitzring and a couple of other places, Reiterberger was right on the pace from the outset. So there is a lot of talent there. Double IDM champion, so not a man to be underestimated, but definitely going to be a difficult season just trying to get the most from that BMW. This year there's only 2 BMWs on the grid with Reiterberger and Torres on the Altea bike. So you can see Alex Lowe's now down on the grid. Lowe's starting from the middle of the second row, 5th on the grid for the number 22 Yamaha. The former BSB champion, he's had, as you can see, 3 podiums, but it's been a couple of years since Lowe's stood on the rostrum and keen to get back up there. But he said that the main target for him this season is to iron out the mistakes, be consistent and finish races and look for the top 5 this weekend as the target.
Yeah, what's impressed me so much about Lowe's is in the build-up to this race is just how focused he has been for this race and race 2. He's done so many race runs, probably done the most race runs of anybody, and just seems so calm and focused, not really worrying too much about one lap pace when it did matter. Obviously, when it did matter, he was able to set a 1:30 dead, which is a very impressive time. And I think that Lowe's could surprise, especially if some guys are struggling with the tyre towards the end of the race.
Yeah, I think given his experience of what to expect throughout the race, it could play into his hands. I think that it's going to be a big challenge for him. He's going to need a few factors to play into his hands to be able to get on the podium. That's an unrealistic goal in some ways for him in this race, but maybe if he can take advantage of, you know, a Melandri or a Sykes having a little bit of an issue with the tyres, given that Melandri has said he's not even sure about his race fitness, given that he hasn't done a race simulation. We've seen Sykes struggle in races here at Phillip Island in the past, so maybe we could see a surprise on the podium from one of the chasing pack. But really, it does look like it's Ducati against Kawasaki here once again this weekend, with a battle for fifth just to be the best of the rest.
Exactly. Stefan Bradl would certainly like to be dragging that Honda up into the battle for the victory, but it is a bit early for that. As we said, that bike came so late to them before testing. They just had absolutely no time, and they are still struggling with a fair few things, especially edge grip. Nicky Hayden's been able to produce some pretty solid one laps, but Stefan Bradl, who's still adapting to World Superbikes and how everything is going, just not quite up there, and will start this race down in 15th place. Now we come to the birthday boy, turned 27 yesterday, Randy Krummenacher. He does start in 14th place in a bit of a MotoGP sandwich, with Eugene Laverty starting just ahead of him and Stefan Bradl starting just behind him. Number 88, nice pink 88, standing out against the green of that Kawasaki. Of course, Krummenacher did win the Supersport race here last year, so it does come with a fair bit of pedigree. And here we go to one of the most consistent men in the championship, number 40, Roman Ramos. He only failed to score points in 4 races last year, and those were 4 races that he had to miss through injury. Otherwise, he has always managed to score in the last season. So even though he's starting a bit further down the field in 17th, watch him to just, you know, plug away at those lap times and pick up some places, especially if there's some incidents further ahead. Really, really interesting to see what Ramos can do this weekend on that Kawasaki. Kawasaki, definitely the most popular bike on the grid. A lot of those smaller satellite teams electing to run the ZX-10R. A bike that's just really, really solid out of the box straight away. Of course, Jonathan Rea and Tom Sykes on the slightly newer ZX-10RR with some special parts, a homologation special, as we listen to the Australian National Anthem.
For we are young and free, we've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Harry, I'll give you a couple of minutes just to calm yourself down after hearing
Thanks,
your
Dave.
national anthem. But we've got the tyre sheets in from Pirelli as well. So the majority of the field all using the same tyre combination today, with the SC2 front tyre, the standard medium tyres, the same tyre that you can buy from the shops from Pirelli for track day usage, and then the development medium tyre on the rear, the SC1 compound, being used for the majority of the field. We've got a couple of outliers. We've got Chaz Davis and Javi Forez both using the new development soft SC1 compound front tyre. So two of the Ducati riders feeling that they can get away with the softer compound on the front. But Marco Melandri, Jordi Torres, Randy Krummenacher all using just the standard SC1 soft tyre is in their front. The majority of the field, as I said, all using the SC2.
speed, adrenaline, drama. Don't miss the action.
Well, you heard them all say it. Don't miss the action. The first race of this 26-race, 13-round championship is about to get underway. It is Jonathan Rea who lines up on pole for his title defence. Teammate Sykes second, Melandri third, ahead of teammate Davies. Lowe's in fifth, Savadori in sixth on the Aprilia. Jordi Torres, the leading BMW in seventh, ahead of countryman Forres. Camia in ninth, Vandermark in 10th, looking to make up ground. Nicky Hayden there, ahead of Reiterberger. 13th place is Eugene Lavie, unfortunately had a crash during Super Pole 1, ahead of rookie Krumnacher and rookie Bridle. Brooks there ahead of Ramos and Russo. Then Yekes, De Angelis and Battavini round out row 7 on the grid. Watch out for De Angelis, especially to come through the grid. Always one who comes good on race day. Of course, Saturday is the first race day for the World Superbike Championship as they leave for their first sighting lap of the year. Once they complete this lap, we will be racing. I, for one, am certainly excited for this one. I cannot wait to finally head out. There you can see World Superbike is 30. This is the 30th year that we will be racing. 1,007 riders with race starts, 72 different race winners, 17 world champions. Will Jonathan Rea keep it at 17 this year, or will we see a new 18th championship crowned? Depending on who you ask, I'm sure they'll give very different answers. I know which one Jonathan would give.
Yeah, I think this could well be one of the most exciting seasons we've seen in a very long time for World SBK. When you look at what we've seen last year, especially the second half, Chaz Davis really strong, and Tom Sykes looks motivated, but whether or not he'll be able to actually perform and get to the front in race twos with the shuffled grid order could be a big challenge for him. But with Honda back with the new bike, Aprilia back with more support, Yamaha finding their feet after last year where they came back to the series, we could have a lot of exciting races at the front of the field this year.
We certainly could, as the bikes make their way around, up over Lukey Heights. Truly magical corner, that one, down into MG. One of the only two first gear corners on the track alongside the Honda hairpin. Then it's try and carry as much corner speed as you can. Just carry that momentum through turn 11, long sweeping left-hander, which leads into turn 12, another long sweeping left-hander. The tyres crying underneath your bike as you just continue to wind on the power as you head towards the Gardner Straight. Down that and then tip it right into Doon Corner, the sea in front of you. It's a truly magical thing to watch at Phillip Island. Any form of motorbike racing, but especially the World Superbike Championship. Winter is finally over. It's almost time for the lights to go out and for racing to get underway.
Yeah, you can see Jonathan Rea now just coming to the pole position for this, the first race of the season. Into the box, you can see Parariba, his crew chief, just getting ready to watch his Charger start the season. Tom Sykes second on the grid. And Marco Melandri, the returning Italian, rounds out the front row.
The red flag there being held. It will be taken away, then the riders will turn their attention to the lights just above their head. There we go, the red flag man walking away. Tom Sykes in the center screen, Jonathan Rea on pole. Watch the lights in the top left corner. They will go on and then they will go. And when they go, we are racing. Revs up, away we go. The 2017 World Superbike season is underway. Jonathan Rea shoots off like a cut snake, but it looks like it's Chaz Davies carving through the field behind teammate Marco Melandri as they tip into Doon Corner, turn 1.
Yeah, and you can see Davis from the inside of the second row, from fourth in the grid, making a great start. Lowe's with a great start from the middle of the second row in fifth, but already getting engulfed by the Kawasaki's. Jonathan Rea back into third position with Tom Sykes in fourth.
Great start for Vandermark and Eugene Lavie just a bit behind them as they battle just behind with the two Ducatis, and Jonathan Rea has now muscled his way into second place into the Honda hairpin for the first time. Tom Sykes with a big move there, looking to get through, can't quite do it. Lowe's up the inside of Forres as well.
Yeah, and a great start from Forres from 8th on the grid to manage to get himself up into the top 5 now.
It is still Marco Melandri who leads on his World Superbike return ahead of reigning champion Jonathan Rea. Looks like Yekes is there at the back. There's still nothing to choose between any of these riders as they snake along the wonderful seaside circuit of Phillip Island.
Yeah, Michael Vandermark's always been down as a Sunday man and a racer, but from 10th on the grid, Vandermark's up to 7th now and right there with his teammate. You can see it's still Melandri in front, but Jonathan Rea, after a really aggressive move on Chaz Davis, and a surprising move into there, but you can see
Chaz Davies just looking for a way there through on Tom Sykes, who had just taken him before, but couldn't quite get through. Sykes trying his hardest to stay with these leading two riders as we come around through turn 11, about to complete the very first lap of 2017.
Yeah, we saw how confident Ray was with the move that he made on Chaz Davies into turn 3. Not a typical overtaking position, but a great move from Ray on that. So we know how confident he is on the bike. You can see still unable just to get through on Melandri, but dives down into doing corners. Cambered corner that allows you just to carry that speed, and Ray's able to make the move. Sykes trying to follow his teammate through, so good aggressive riding there from Sykes, not letting Jonathan Ray get to the front and try and open a gap.
Marco Melandri getting beaten up here. Javi Flores doing really well to hang on in 5th. Just a third of those Ducatis. It is green, green, red, 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 and then a couple of Yamahas. As you said, incredible start from Michael van der Mark to get inside the top 10. Also great start from Eugene Laverty. Now the leading Aprilia and ahead of Nicky Hayden on that Honda. Davies tries to get through on Marco Melandri, can't quite do it around Honda.
Yeah, you can see Davis now. He knows that with Jonathan Ray at the front, he needs to get through on his teammate. He needs to get there and stay there with the Kawasaki riders. So we'll start to see Davis just try and make those moves on Melandri.
Also, it looks like just on the exit of Honda that Lowe's moved ahead of Flores there, so Lowe's in 5th place. As we said, Lowe's has put in so much work for the full race distance. If he can stick with those leading 4 riders, then expect an elbow or two on the last few laps.
And a good start from Nicky Hayden as well, into the top 10. Savadori's the man that's dropped back into 10th position on the Aprilia. As you said, Eugene Laverty with a good start from 13th into 8th position on that Aprilia.
Chaz Davies all over the back of his teammate Marco Melandri. Can he use the triple slipstream ahead of him to try and do something down the straight as Jonathan Ray starts to just bash in those incredibly low 1:30 lap times as they make their way across the Gardner Straight for just the second time. It is Jonathan Ray from Tom Sykes, Marco Melandri, Chaz Davies in 4th there. Marco Melandri gets past Tom Sykes. Can Melandri get it stopped? He runs a bit wide and Tom Sykes tries to slide back through but can't quite do it. Tom Sykes with the fast lap of the race so far, 1:32.2.
Yeah, you can take a couple of lines through doing turn 1 and Melandri's able to hold that high line and hold on to the position. You can see Flores and Chaz Davies now just on the tail of Tom Sykes and trying to get through. A little bit of a gap developing behind this top 5 towards Alex Lowe's in 6th as well.
And all that battling has given Jonathan Ray just a couple of bike lengths as they run down into the Honda hairpin. Really easy to make a mistake here because the braking is so hard. We're on board with Chaz Davies as he looks for a way past on Tom Sykes. Can't quite do it. Sykes looking nice and smooth at the start of this race.
Yeah, and Davis staying in 4th position. But he saw his teammate Marco Melandri make a move down the start, finish straight. So maybe that Ducati just in the toe from the Kawasaki might give Chaz Davies an opportunity to get through. You can see Jonathan Ray just edging out that gap. It's 0.3 of a second now for Jonathan Ray. And the more that these guys are fighting with each other, the more they'll hold each other up. And really, you can't afford to give Jonathan Ray that inch at the start of a race.
Yep, still 20 laps to go as Marco Melandri does hold 2nd place ahead of Tom Sykes. Can Tom Sykes get back ahead of the Italian and try and close down his teammate as Jonathan Ray continues to open up bike length after bike length? Lowe's doing pretty well there to hang on in 6th place, just ahead of teammate Van der Mark. Eugene Laverty keeping honest inside the top 10. A great start for him after a pretty terrible start to the day with a crash.
Yeah, you can see riding on board with Chaz Davies. Tries to make the move into turn 1. This is a teammate Marco Melandri who's in 2nd. But you can see Davis able to make the move on Tom Sykes, gets 3rd. And now can he try and get through on his teammate Marco Melandri?
We certainly saw that in the build-up to this weekend. Davies did maybe have the edge on race pace with Melandri. As we said before, Melandri a bit unknown in this race. He's going to have to be careful not to push his tyres too hard in these opening 4 or 5 laps.
Yeah, we've got a leading group of 6 that you can see there. A bit of a gap with Laverty having been overtaken by Van der Mark for 7th position. There's round about a second between Lowe's and the fight for 7th with Van der Mark and Laverty.
Big look there from Johnny as they exit Honda hairpin, just trying to see who is behind him. Here we see the move on Chaz Davies. Pretty classic doing corner move there, just up the inside of Tom Sykes. Sykes tries to take a slightly wide line but can't quite do it as Davies now looks to overtake his teammate.
Yeah, and you can see Davis right there on the back wheel of his teammate Marco Melandri. Davis looking like he wants to just get through. He knows he's got a bit more speed. He knows that he can go with Jonathan Ray, but really you can see just how bunched up the field is at the front now. Phillip Island's always a track where it's difficult, no matter what bike you're on, to be able to open those gaps. It's a circuit that with that long, fast corners and high speed down the start, finish straight, you're able just to use the slipstream and keep close to the guys in front of you.
Exactly, nothing to choose between those top four, with both Foras and Lows still within touching distance, especially if that battle does continue to heat up at the front there. We can see the pit boards telling them the gap +0 for Davies, with Sykes right behind. It is 3 abreast into turn 1. Davies goes for the inside, can't quite do it, but does slip ahead of teammate Marco Melandri as Jonathan Ray continues to hold on to the lead. Four is doing incredibly well now, breathing down the neck of Tom Sykes in 4th.
And this is what we've waited all winter to see. Chaz Davies, Jonathan Ray. Over the winter, we've started to see a bit of the needle develop between them. Jonathan Ray in the season preview for Motorcycle News in the UK saying that it's not really what his rivals do on track that annoys him, it's what they say off track. And now we're starting to see them both on track. We saw yesterday in free practice, Chaz Davies and Jonathan Ray right with each other. And you can see Xavi Fares just runs in a bit too deep, made the move on Sykes on the way in, but gets overtaken on the way out. And Alex Lowe's with the drive into Siberia to get through as well. And it's Lowe's into 4th. So good start for Lowe's on the Yamaha. This is as good as we've seen from the Englishman on that bike in the last couple of years.
Yeah, really strong start from him. Just outside of this group, we do have Savadori now up into 7th ahead of Vandermark. Lavity slips down to 9th. Cameo rounding out the top 10. There you can see that big chasing pack as Lavity slips up the inside, it looks like, of Leon Cameo. 2 very different sized riders there with Lavity and Cameo. It is still Jonathan Ray who leads as they tip down through MG, with Lowe's now getting pushed hard by Forrest, who slams it up the inside through turn 11 to move back ahead of the British rider into 5th.
Yeah, good move there by Fares just to get down the inside into the first gear MG corner. We saw him try a move like that on Tom Sykes into the first gear, Honda hairpin, but able to make the move stick on Alex Lowe's this time. You can see it's still Jonathan Ray across the line, but he's got Chaz Davies right with him. You can see each of these riders trying to use the slipstream to get in front of the guy that they're battling with, but it's still Ray from Davis, Melandri, Sykes and Xavi Fares.
Yep, Alex Lowe's doing well to hang on there, and also watch out for Savadori, who is gaining pretty rapidly on them here as well. It looks like Marco Melandri is pushed a bit wide, with Tom Sykes looking for a way through. Yeah,
it's Melandri that's gone through to take the lead. It looked like Jonathan Ray just had a bit of an issue coming into Southern Loop. It looked to be going a lot slower than what Chaz Davies would have expected him to see at the apex, and that's what opened the door for Melandri to come through and take the lead.
As we come into Honda once again, we go on board with Chaz Davies. An incredible view as we get Jonathan Ray's rear tyre right in our face. That shows you just how close all of these guys are going.
Yeah, Leon Cameo, we're just seeing up into 8th position as well. Cameo recovering well on the MV, but it's Eugene Laverty. We'll see him in the back of the screen with the green helmet that's just dropping down the order there into 9th.
It looks like Savadori may have had some sort of incident as he quickly drops down our timing screens. I can't quite see him there in that chasing group yet, and he has unfortunately crashed at turn 6. Number 32, the Italian rider, is unfortunately out of this race after making great inroads. There's just confirmation on your screen as the leading pack come through MG and begin to wind their way again towards the start-finish straight. It is Ducati from Kawasaki, from Ducati, from Kawasaki to Ducati, and then finally the Yamaha of Lowe's just behind.
And you can see Savadori's bike here down at Siberia, but the gap between Lowe's and Cameo, 6th and 7th, round about a second and a half at the start of the last lap, but Cameo's a man on the move. This group, of course, fighting with one another, and you can see Jonathan Ray getting through into 2nd on Chaz Davies, staying in 2nd position for Ray, but this group fighting with each other has allowed the next group just to start closing the gap on them. And you can see in the background it looks like Sykes Fares trying to go around the outside again here, but
yep, Sykes up the inside of Chaz Davies there to move back into 3rd, and then as you said, Forrest also looking for a way around his fellow Ducati rider. Davies looking pretty comfortable in 4th, though we know that Davies loves a brawl.
Yeah, and last time around, Cameo, who you can see in the background on the number 2 MV Augusta, was 0.8 of a second faster than this group, and that's why we've now got a leading group of about 12 or 13 riders. It looks like we're back into the first lap of the race.
This is absolutely excellent as Davies gets ahead of Sykes yet again. It's all chop and change, and look at that, we have now, look, Lowe's is there, Cameo's there, Vandermark's not too far behind. He's brought Lavity, Torres, Hayden, Krumnacher, Bridle and Ryderberger to the party. All 4 of these riders are within touching distance of each other. It's absolutely incredible out the front as Jonathan Ray runs a tiny bit wide. Marco Melandri maintaining his lead forward all over the back of Sykes.
Yeah, and that's a few times that we've seen Ray just run that little bit wide. You can see Fares trying to get down the inside of Sykes. Sykes is going to try and gas it up through 11 and retake the position off of Fares, but Fares looking really keen to get through and fight for his first podium in the dry. He had a podium last year at Leicester in the wet, but on the Barney Ducati he's looking for his first dry podium, and you can see Alex Lowe is now right with Fares as well. Fares had a moment just bobbling on the exit of that last corner. Lowe's just not quite enough top speed to be able to get close to the Ducati.
It looks like, unfortunately, wildcard Josh Brooks may have also had a technical issue. We will bring you updates on that as we see Jonathan Rea look for a way past Marco Melandri. Can't quite do it. Slightly wider line through the southern loop. Chaz Davies right behind Jonathan Rea.
Yeah, and you can see Leon Camier there and Michael van der Mark right behind this lead group as well. So really competitive here in the front of the field, and it's the opening World SBK race of the year. And you can see riding on board with Chaz Davies through turn 3, through Stoner Corner, chasing Jonathan Rea, but it's still Marco Melandri on the 33 Ducati that's out in front.
Yeah, once again, Davies closing up so much through Honda. It does look like Lowe's has gotten through on Forres as well, to now be just behind his compatriot Sykes. As you say, Marco Melandri continuing to lead, looking pretty comfortable out the front in all honesty, continuing to put some distance between him and Johnny, but we saw Johnny open up a couple of bike lengths at the start and then have the rest close it all down.
Yeah, you can see Rea just closing back up on Marco Melandri again now, but Jonathan's ran wide a couple of times and just seems to be not quite as comfortable as we've seen him here in the past.
Exactly. Also a shout out to Alex de Angelis, who's up into the points after starting in 20th spot. That's 5 positions gained for Alex de Angelis, and he's pretty close to the likes of Ryderberg ahead of him as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one as we go along. But it is another former MotoGP rider, Marco Melandri, who does lead this race. He hasn't raced for a year and is right back to where he left off, leading the way as he seeks to become the 100th Italian to stand on that podium. Jonathan Rea is not going to let him have it though, as we have 14 laps to go. Chaz Davies also in that podium mix. Remember, if the race were to end now, these 3 riders would start on the 3rd row of the grid for race 2 tomorrow.
Melandri just on the way into Southern Loop, taking a tighter line than Jonathan Rea, but able to still carry that speed and still maintain that gap. Right now it's about a couple of tenths of a second between Melandri and Rea, with Chaz Davies keeping a watching brief on Jonathan Rea. You can see confirmation there that Josh Brooks has retired from this race as Lowe's continues to defend from Xavi Forres and just starting to edge his way right up there to Tom Sykes. We've seen in the past, you can see Josh Brooks now in the pit box. A few technical problems throughout the week of testing for Brooks as well, and unfortunately for him, his return to World SBK as a wild card doesn't go too well in the first day, but still race 2 to go tomorrow. You can see now as they come through the hay shed heading towards Lukey Heights, Jonathan Rea able to carry a lot of corner speed through there and close right up on Marco Melandri. You can see Eugene Laverty just recovering back through the field. Laverty back up into 8th. He's yo-yoed around from 7th to 10th throughout this race. We can see Michael van der Mark just sliding on the way into MG, and that's going to allow Jordi Torres to get through and Eugene Laverty as well. Once you're in this midfield pack, it's very easy just to lose a couple of places from just having to defend positions and seeing someone make a move on. You can see Nicky Hayden also in the top 10 there, just trying to follow Torres through and Laverty.
And a great rookie debut for Randy Krumnacher, currently in 12th spot. There you can see the pin on the back of his letters in that group with 4 hyper-experienced riders in this class. Leon Camier there, a bit of a lonely ride on the MP as Jordi Torres does try and get through on Michael van der Mark, can't quite do it.
And off screen you can see Tom Sykes is now taking the lead. Sykes got through on Jonathan Rea across the line, into the lead now Marco Melandri. Alex Lowe's threw up the inside of Jonathan Rea. I think Jonathan Rea's got some sort of an issue there, because we've seen him run wide 5 or 6 times now for Rea. Maybe just the tyre just not quite right for Jonathan Rea, but you can see great move by Lowe's to get down on the inside of Stoner Corner as well on Marco Melandri.
We expected Lowe's to be strong, but I think he's surprising everybody now as Jonathan Rea hunts for a way through up the inside of Marco Melandri. Can't quite do it. Melandri keeping it nice and tight as Sykes and Lowe's look to try and break away. Fire spinning out the back of that Kawasaki ZX-10RR as Lowe's on the R1 continues to chase him with, as I said, Melandri 3rd, Rea 4th, Davies in 5th just behind.
Yeah, behind this group, it's you can see Leon Camier has managed to get through on Xavi Forres as well. The pace right now, it is dropping into the 31s, but we've seen the pace just yo-yo around as everyone's fighting with each other. We're not really seeing a typical race here. We're seeing a very much a race where just everyone's trying to get through on the guy in front of them instead of settling down into a race pace. But that's what happens here at Phillip Island. It's a track that creates groups, the track that creates close racing, and that's exactly what we've seen in the opening half of this race.
Exactly, it has been a thrilling race. 13 laps still to go. Anything could happen. As we said, it's extremely hot outside as Tom Sykes leads across the line ahead of Lowe's.
Yeah, and you can see just on this screen now, we've got the leading group of 7 with Forres and Camier in the background, but now a gap developing back to Michael van der Mark, Jordi Torres and Eugene Laverty as they fight with each other. You can see Jonathan Rea now closing right up on Alex Lowe's, but not able to make a move, but you can see Sykes continuing to lead. The two Ducatis keeping a watching brief behind, but this is great. We've got a Kawasaki, a Yamaha, a Ducati, an MV, all in this leading group of 7. This is exactly what you want to see in World
Exactly,
SBK.
absolutely incredible to see so many different makes of motorcycles up there, so many different riders, so many different styles. As Lowe's tries to do what he does, he slips through into the lead at the Honda hairpin. Can he defend as they make their way towards Siberia?
That's a great move from Lowe's, and you can see into the Yamaha garage. Just the excitement for the crew there as they see Lowe's take the lead. Great move by Lowe's just to keep that bike and actually make the turn. We saw Javi Fares run deep. We've seen a few other people run in a bit deep as they take that. But Lowe's now takes the lead. And we've come up towards MG, and Jonathan Ray is going to try and get down the inside of Tom Sykes. Difficult to make a move into Lukey Heights, but maybe Ray will try something into MG. But we're seeing Sykes. This is as good as we've seen from Tom Sykes at Phillip Island in a very long time. Sykes able to stay in that lead group, stay in that scrap for the lead. And you can see Sykes second position ahead of Jonathan Ray. He said he was going to learn from Ray over the winter, and it certainly looks like he's put some of those lessons to good use now in this, the opening race of the year. But you can see Jonathan Ray now right there with his teammate as they come out of the last corner. But it's Marco Melandri with a big weave for Melandri, but right in the toe of Jonathan Ray as well.
And a bit of a lead there, 3/10, almost 4/10 of a second. That lead does get cut for Lowe's as he looking pretty comfortable at the front. All that hard work on the race run starting to pay off for the Yamaha rider. Ray now trying to close him down. Of course, Yamaha haven't been on the top step of the podium since way back in 2011 with Marco Melandri.
Yeah, and you can see Ray's managed to get through on Sykes into second as well. Behind them, it's still Melandri and Davis, the two Ducati riders, just as we come into the second half of this race. This is where tyres really start to come into effect. But the riders doing high 31s, so with this battling, with this high track temperatures, it's difficult just to make those lap times. You can see there Javi Fares to the back of this group, Leon Camier in 6th position, and then it's Davis and Melandri in 5th and 4th.
Unbelievable ride for Leon Camier, considering that all he's been through in the lead up to this week. This is exactly the same sort of thing we saw from Camier towards the end. And there you can see Lowe's, that gap from 0.4 down to 0.35. Ray looking for a way through on Lowe's. Lowe's not too much experience leading a World Superbike race, nor does that new R1 have much experience leading a World Superbike race, but he's looking like a seasoned veteran right now.
But plenty of experience leading races on a Superbike for Lowe's. BSB champion before he came to World SBK in 2014. And leading on the Yamaha now, but he's got Jonathan Ray right there with him. Ray's picked up a couple of tenths just in the second half of this lap, and you can see Ray just right behind Alex Lowe's now as they come through the final corner.
Exactly, and just for reference, the lap record set by Davies in 2014 is a 1:30.949. Most of these riders are doing 1:30.1.7s. As we see, Jonathan Ray sees the lead down the straight as they tip in. It looks like Marco Melandri also sniffing for a way through on Tom Sykes. Can't quite do it. The Italian breathing down the neck of the Englishman. Looks like he's also dropped off teammate Chaz Davies provisionally. But as we've seen so far, we're about mid-race now, and so much can happen in even just one lap. This race is still far from over. Will Jonathan Ray continue to maybe have those issues we saw towards the start of the race, or has his bike and his tyres come into their own? Is Ray now in the comfort zone, and is he about to just pull the ripcord and break away? Through Honda we go. It is still Ray who stays pretty steady in the lead ahead of Lowe's, as we said. Tom Sykes, a very commendable effort in third. This is some of the best riding I've seen Tom Sykes do. We've seen so many times in the past that if Sykes gets in a battle, he can sometimes drop back, but he's keeping all of these riders, Marco Melandri and Chaz Davies, two of the hardest fighters out there, and Sykes is keeping them honest.
Definitely, and just looking at Alex Lowe's here, I was talking to Alex yesterday and he said that the goal for him was to try and get a top 5, but if there was a chance of a podium or anything more, he was going to give it all he had. And you can see in this opening half of the race, he really has done that, but
looks like a bit of an issue
mistake there for Lowe's, and you can see Sykes able to get through. It's opened up a gap now for Jonathan Ray as well. At the last sector, it was around about a third of a second between Ray and the chasing pack, but probably an extra couple of tenths now for Jonathan Ray just to open that gap. You can see as they come through that final corner onto the Gardner Straight. Ray's going to come across the line, and again another low 31 for Jonathan Ray, half a second faster than the rest of the field.
Davies with a big move up the inside of Marco Melandri. Can he keep that line tight enough to defend from Melandri as they head towards turn 2?
And Davis obviously seeing that gap open for Jonathan Ray, knowing that he needs to get through now. He's going to try and get down underneath Alex Lowe's through the southern loop. Looks like he's made that move, so it's now Ray, Sykes and Chaz Davis, the top 3 from last year's championship, in the top 3 today at Phillip Island. You can see also Eugene Laverty's just dropped down to 10th position as well.
Chaz Davies looking to get through on Tom Sykes as quickly as possible. As you quite rightly said, Steve, he can't have Jonathan Rea break away. If Jonathan is able to get out on his own, then he can just dance to victory. But Chaz Davies is a very determined rider. We saw him overtake 2 riders in just 4 corners there. He looks to be on the move. As we can see, Rea slowly eking open that gap now, just over half a second. So there shouldn't be any slipstreaming effect for Tom Sykes behind him. So down the straight, Sykes shouldn't be able to gain too much time, but it's through these corners that Sykes can work exceedingly hard. Will Davies try and get through? No. Melandri looking for a way through on those, just a bit further behind. We knew that both those riders could be involved in a great battle for 5th place.
Yeah, a little bit of a head shake for Lowes on the way into MG as well, so you can see just how much on the limit he is on that Yamaha. We saw last year Sylvain Gintoli quite strong here in the opening races of the season at Phillip Island. The Yamaha does work well here, and Lowes is certainly putting in a good effort there to be 4th on the blue Yamaha number 22, but you can see it's still Jonathan Rea across the line. Last time around, Tom Sykes a few tenths of a second faster than Rea. The gap now down to 4/10 of a second.
Yep, Chaz Davies right behind Tom Sykes. Is he going to line something up for turn 2? No, we've seen Davies really strong into turn 4. I reckon that's where Davies will try and attack his fellow Brit.
Yeah, and we saw Marco Melandri run in really hot into the southern loop, get very close to Alex Lowes. It looks like Melandri's ran off or ran deep into southern loop at least. You can see his name just falling down the order.
Now outside the top 10 for Marco Melandri after such an incredible start as we go on board once again with Chaz Davies. Slightly wider line there from Tom Sykes. The front wheel of Chaz Davies' Ducati just inches away from the rear wheel of Tom Sykes' Kawasaki as we go around Siberia.
And you can see Melandri at southern loop. So obviously Marco ran in a bit hot and has ran off the track through the gravel at southern loop. So disappointment there from Melandri on his comeback to World SBK. We said earlier on, Harry, that if the likes of Lowes or Fares or indeed Camille is now up into 5th, they need something to happen to the likes of Melandri or these leading trio to be able to fight for the podium. You can see Lowes right there with Chaz Davies in that scrap for 3rd. You can see Davis and Sykes have been able to pull back that gap to Jonathan Rea. It was 6/10. It's now down to 1/10 of a second between the leader and Tom Sykes there. I think you'd have to say that this scrap right now, Johnny Rea just doesn't look like he's really had as much confidence as you'd expect to see. We've seen him run wide, we've seen him make a few mistakes, so now you can see Tom Sykes right in the slipstream trying to get through in his teammate, but it's Alex Lowes getting through on Chaz Davies and possibly Tom Sykes, but good move from Lowes to get through on Davis and take 3rd.
Yep, great camera work there from Jonathan Rea as his teammate continues to chase him down. Lowes doing the best he can to defend from Chaz Davies as Davies looks up the inside and just slides that Panigale through on the R1.
Yeah, a couple of different lines you can take through turn 2. A lot of it depends on the carriage of your bike. Davis consistently being able to take that tighter line and able to retake the position from Lowes and stay in 3rd.
Melandri has also rejoined the race, but he's way down in 19th place. As things stand, he would start the second race in 10th place. As it is Jonathan Rea who continues to lead all 4 of those riders. Nice and close again. And it is, in fact, Leon Camier who's in 5th place ahead of Flores and Torres. Camier not too far off. You know, if that group continues to battle, we could maybe even see Camier step up into that podium mix.
Yeah, and you can see here, once again, still the leading Kawasaki's with Jonathan Rea in front of Tom Sykes, and for a change it looks like it's Jonathan Rea that's holding up mid-corner the other rivals, the other Kawasaki. So obviously Rea still out in front and able to get to the front, but it doesn't look like he's got the pace that you'd expect and what we've seen in the past where he can open up that gap. So shows just how competitive a season we could have this year with both Kawasaki's, the Ducati there. Unfortunately we lost Marco Melandri in this leading scrap, but Lowes and Camier there, it just shows again just how close this field can be here at Phillip Island. Each of the bikes working differently. You can see Tom Sykes riding on board with Chaz Davies who's trying to get through. Tom Sykes takes the lead. Does Davis take 2nd?
Yeah, it looks like Davies has stolen 2nd from Jonathan. That's a classic Phillip Island move there. You can really get beaten up heading into turn 1 as Camier is now breathing down the neck of Lowes. A great ride from the MV Augusta rider. Really can't give him enough recommendation.
Yeah, and the pace just dropped off now to the mid to high 32s from this group. Track temperature really high now, into the 40s, and difficult for these guys to make the Pirelli tyres last. You can see the heat haze coming off the track.
As they come around Honda hairpin, very difficult. It is so easy to outbrake yourself into turn 4 and either run straight on or even go down the front end under so much strain there. As we look back at Lowes, Chaz Davies currently sits in between the Kawasaki sandwich. Can he get through on Tom Sykes? is Jonathan Rea just biding his time for a last lap attack. I really thought that we'd see Rea and Davies streak away, but it's absolutely incredible to see all of these top 6 riders neck and neck.
You can see Javi Forés trying to get through on Leon Camier as well. So a group of 6 here, and great to see 2 Kawasaki's, 2 Ducatis, an MV and a Yamaha, 4 different manufacturers. Nice variety at the front of the field.
And great to see that the Barney Racing team, not a factory outfit, is able to stake up there with, 4 other different types of factory bikes.
Yeah, and Phillip Island, always a place that throws up surprising results, always a place that has close racing, and you can see Jonathan Rea, he's not going to be able to make a move on Chaz Davies into turn 1, but Davies is going to try and get through on Tom Sykes.
Never say never as Davies slides through into second place. No dramas there.
Yeah, I thought that Rea was too far behind as they came across the line. We can see Alex Lowe's just trying to get down the inside of Chaz Davies now as well into Southern Loop. It's Kawasaki 1-2 again, and the order changing constantly today at Phillip Island.
Exactly. This is what motorcycle racing is all about. This is what makes Phillip Island one of the greatest circuits in the world. Always produces stunning, close racing like that. As I say that, Tom Sykes has opened up 1 or 2 bike lanes as Lowe's tries to get up the inside of Davies. Bit of a wobble there as Jonathan Rea goes wide, forced to stand up as both Davies and Lowe's slip through. Lowe's now back up into second. It looks like Rea was able to then get back ahead of Davies.
Tell you what, there's no fear from Alex Lowe's, just punting that bike down the inside, under braking. A lot of times we see people run in too deep into the Honda hairpin, but a great move by Lowe's to be able to get that bike pulled up in time.
Yep, unfortunately Marco Melandri has now entered the pits, obviously down in 19th place. No chance of him scoring any points. Pretty disappointing return after a great start to the race for Melandri, but he will have another bite at the cherry tomorrow as they come down through MG. Slightly wider line there from Chaz Davies. Leon Camier now well and truly involved in this podium battle.
Yeah, you can see here we're riding on board with Chaz Davies just as we come through the Honda hairpin and really close to just having contact there with Jonathan Rea.
Yamaha team understandably excited about that one. An incredible ride from the number 22 as he is in second place. Tom Sykes taking great advantage of this hard battling behind as we watch the number 7 of Chaz Davies slips through on Lowe's into third place as they enter Doohan Corner. Can Rea and Davies work together to close down those couple of bike lanes to Tom Sykes, or has Sykes broken just enough? There's only 4 laps left. Tyres are going to be all over the shop now. It's going to be really hard to try and close down that gap unless you've been doing some excellent tyre management.
Yeah, we've seen some high 32s, mid 32s in the second half of this race. So with this scrapping, obviously you're not able to really set the ultimate pace that you want to set. So sometimes you start to see that the tyre wear isn't as big of a factor as maybe we'd expect. You can see Chaz Davies just trying to get the drive on Jonathan Rea in that scrap for second.
Looks like there was a bit of a big move from Camier there as he tried to get through on Lowe's and Forest. Looks like Camier has now dropped to the second last place in this group, with Forest just behind Lowe's, able to get some breathing room over the Andorra resident. What else can we say about this race? It's been absolutely breathtaking. What a great way to start the 30th World Superbike Championship.
You can see here a little bit of a gap between Chaz Davies and Alex Lowe's, but you can Leon Camier, bit of a head shake on the way in. He's starting to be really aggressive. You can see Lowe's with a mistake at MG, and that's what's opened the door there to Leon Camier to get right with him. So now that gap has opened between Chaz Davies and the scrap for fourth. So we're looking at a podium fight between the 2 Kawasaki's and Chaz Davies, and a battle for fourth. You can see a massive weave for Chaz Davies just as he comes on to the start-finish straight.
Exactly. I don't think he's going to be close enough to do anything, but it looks like Jonathan Rea will be as he seizes back the lead from his teammate Tom Sykes. Pretty slow there as Davies almost slams into the back of him.
Yeah, and as we go to the wide angle, you can see that Forés was able to make a move on Leon Camier, but it looks like Camier may have been able to get back through into turn 1.
Chaz Davies now back ahead of Tom Sykes and looking to close down on Jonathan Rea. As you can see, that Ducati just moving around under Davies so much. Jonathan looking a bit more stable with that Kawasaki as they brake hard. Big leg out there for Chaz Davies into the Honda hairpin. And here we can see that move again. Jonathan right in the slipstream, then just slips it up the inside, puts his bike where Sykes want to be. Bit of a rear end wobble there from Sykes as well. There you can see Davies taking a slightly wider line not to collide with Tom Sykes. It looks like both of these guys have now yet again opened up a couple of bike lanes.
Yeah, so we see Jonathan Rea, Chaz Davies at the front, and it looks just like Tom Sykes maybe just losing a bit of ground, but still a great performance by Sykes to be able to stay in this lead group. I don't think many people expected him to be there with Davies and Rea around Phillip Island.
But finishing third could present a very... Oh, as Davies almost touches the rear of Jonathan Rea. Jonathan Rea and Salvadori had a bit of a touch there during FP3 this morning. Chaz is looking pretty aggressive now. There's only 3 laps to go. We're almost on the penultimate lap. It's all going to kick off in these last 3 laps. But as I was saying, if the race were to finish like this, Tom Sykes would start from the head of the third row. That's a lot of ground to make up.
Yeah, and you can see Davis, only a couple of hundreds between them across the line, and Davis right there with Jonathan Rea into turn 1. We got 2 laps to go, and a great fight between the 2 guys that fought out for the championship last year.
Exactly, this championship has resumed right where the last one went off, only it's even closer out the front. This is some of the fiercest battling we've seen in a good long while, and as we said at the top of the show, this is going to be one of the most competitive World Superbike Championships in history as we go on board with Jonathan Rea, looking back at Chaz Davies, that big number 7, closing in on us as we brake hard for the Honda hairpin.
Yeah, and so much more corner speed there from Chaz Davies on the way through turn 3. We've seen it a few times into Honda hairpin as well, where the different lines between the Ducati and the Kawasaki riders. And you can see now just Chaz Davies just edging ever closer to Jonathan Rea in this scrap for the lead. Lap and a half to go as they come through Siberian into the fast sweeping curves, into the hay shed and into Lukey Heights. Chaz Davies looking really strong at this point.
Earlier this morning we had the Australian Superbikes out and their race came down to a drag to the line, and this is shaping up to be every bit that race did, as well as Davies stalks Jonathan Rea just inches behind him through MG.
Yeah, and you'd have to say Davies just looks like he's got that little bit more speed and could potentially make a move here on Jonathan Rea.
Yep, as they come around turn 11, the run to the line will be absolutely crucial for both Jonathan Rea and Chaz Davies. It'll all be about maximising their drive and just shooting their bikes down. Here we go. We cross the line for the penultimate time. It is now. The last lap is underway as Chaz Davies looks for the inside at turn 1. He slips up the inside of Jonathan Rea. He leads through Duans, but big corner speed there from Jonathan Rea as he briefly gets back ahead of the Ducati rider. Around the southern loop they go. There's only 10 corners left. Chaz Davies having a look up the inside as they make their way towards Stoner Corner. That incredible turn 3. It is still Jonathan Rea who does lead ahead of the Welshman. Slipping and sliding their way through Stoner. Then hard on the brakes for Honda. Will Davies do it? No. It looks like he's going to try and keep his powder dry. There's so many chances here. Of course, there's MG and then the run out of turn 11. Tom Sykes, though, they have to be careful that Jonathan Rea and Chaz Davies don't change their 2 lines too much and get too defensive, because Tom Sykes is right there. Also an incredible result from Lowe's, who could provisionally start race 2 from pole position. Of course, 4th place does become pole for the second race. These 3 riders in front would start down on the 3rd row of the grid as we come over Lukey Heights for the last time. Will Chaz Davies try anything into MG? No, he can't. There's only 2 corners left and then the run to line. Chaz Davies is right with Jonathan Rea as they make their way through turn 11. Can Chaz Davies carry enough speed to just get his Ducati past that Kawasaki? It is Japan versus Italy. Red versus green. Here we go. It's all about the drag to the line. Chaz Davies is right in the slipstream. Will he pull it out, or has Jonathan Rea done it? Oh! And it's a photo finish, but I think Jonathan Rea has just managed to pip Chaz Davies for the first race win of the season. Yes, confirmed on his screens there. Jonathan Rea gets his title defense started in the perfect way, and Michael van der Mark comes perilously close to Eugene Laverty there. What a great race throughout the field. An incredible battle at the front. It is Jonathan Rea who starts the season with 25 points as we join Ramos and De Angelis, and it looks like it is Ramos who gets 13th place. Stefan Bradl brings his Honda home in 15th place. Absolutely stunning race finish. I can hardly catch my breath. Jonathan Rea starts the season, pole position, lap record, and 25 points from race 1 ahead of Chaz Davies. Chaz Davies did all he could. Davies losing out on victory by just 0.042. Then Tom Sykes a second behind the race winner in 3rd. Lowe's also doing tremendously well, just 0.03 of a second behind Tom Sykes in 4th. Of course, Lowe's will now start the second race from pole position. A huge boost for him. And a round of applause deserved for Leon Camier, the man who had almost no bike time before the 25-minute FP3 session today, waving to the crowd as we go on board with Chaz Davies. He can be happy with that result. He may not have won it, but what a ride from Chaz Davies. He's lost none of his aggression, none of his talent over the winner, and this season is already off to an absolutely incredible start. As we said, Camier rounds out the top 5. Flores, really respectable in 6th. He'll round out the front row for race 2. Torres 7th, Laverty 8th. Pretty solid, all things considered. Vandermark 9th. He'll have been wanting more than that, especially with his teammates so close to the podium. Randy Krumnacher gets a top 10 on his rookie debut ahead of MotoGP world champion Nicky Hayden. Who saw that one coming? Not me. Big wave to the crowd for Tom Sykes. Excellent ride from Tom Sykes as well. Really, really great. But this man here, an honorary resident of Phillip Island, cuts across to the grass to say a big thank you to all the fans and all the marshals who make racing possible, giving back to the community that has given him so much, parking his bike up there against the tyre wall. What has Jonathan got planned, or is he just going to go celebrate the fans? That's one of the great things about World Superbikes, and especially about Jonathan Rea. He is so involved with the fans, loves to see everybody. Oh, careful, looked like that bike was tipping over. Luckily, it looks like a marshal does have a hand. High fives for everyone. Look at that. That's something a bit special for everybody. Some Swiss fans down here, as well as we ride through pit lane with Chaz Davies on that Aruba.it Ducati. What a ride for Davies. Absolutely incredible. Came down to the wire, but it was that man there, Jonathan Rea, who did come out on top. Starts his season as he means to go on with victory. He has now taken 3 wins in a row at Phillip Island. Could he potentially make it 4 wins in a row tomorrow when we do race again at 3 p.m. local time, which is about half an hour, about 23 and a half hours from now exactly. Always time for a selfie with the Kawasaki fans. I'm not sure how you can take a selfie in race gloves, but he's getting through. It looks like they've gotten the timer sorted on that one. What a great day for those fans there. Remember, everybody, always wear your favourite team gear. You never know who will stop for a selfie. Great to see Jonathan giving back to the fans so much for that one. Of course, he will be keeping Steve English down in pit lane waiting a bit, but after a race like that, you can understand him.
Yeah. You're smoking in your place.
Okay, there we see Tom Sykes 3rd place. Pretty solid result for Tom. Not super happy there as he chats with one of his Kawasaki teammates. His crew chief Marcel there, pretty happy with that one. Pretty solid start to the season for Sykes. Of course, Sykes had a much rougher start to the season here last year with a 5th and 6th place and being 3 seconds behind the race winner, that man there. So he has cut that gap down a fair bit, and Sykes also, really importantly, has shown that he can put up a pretty solid fight, which will be all crucial for this race 2, which we keep talking so much about, taking place tomorrow, where obviously those top 3 finishers will move to the 3rd row. Never been done before in World Superbikes. Huge interest around race 2.
To go to media
There we see Davies just chatting with his crew. He was a bit worried about something, then a bit mumbling, must have known that our cameras were there. Doesn't want to give away all of his secrets just yet. Sounds like Jonathan has also just arrived back in Parc Fermé, the #1, again for the 2nd time today in the #1 spot. Can he do it again tomorrow? Shrug your shoulders. Yeah, that was pretty good. I think we can definitely class that ride as pretty good. And there we have it, the race. Rea ahead of Davies, ahead of Sykes, ahead of Lowe's, ahead of Camia, Flores 6th, Torres 7th, Laverty 8th, Vandermark in the top 10, Krumnacher rounding out that top 10. Incredible result for him. Hayden in 11th, not too bad considering the state of that Honda and Hayden's sort of worry going into the weekend. Reiterberger 12th, Ramos, told you he always gets in the points, 13th, ahead of De Angelis, ahead of Bridle. Russo doing pretty well in 16th, ahead of Badavini and Yekes, with Melandri, Brooks and Savadori unfortunately failing to finish that race. Big disappointment for them, but they will get to do it all again tomorrow. So there is always hope on the other side of the rainbow for those trio of riders. I feel especially bad for Josh Brooks, having funded all of that ride himself. Always disappointing there. You can see Nicky Hayden and Leon Camia just walking back down pit lane. Camia explained to his team what was going on with the bike. Handshake between the 2 teammates as we wait for Tom Sykes to eventually make his way over to the interview room. Both Tom Sykes and Jonathan Rea and Chaz Davies, all 3 of them, very familiar with this Parc Fermé, especially Tom Sykes during qualifying, on the cusp of taking Troy Course's record. It looks like we're about to talk to Tom Sykes in just a little bit. And now we're going to throw it down to Steve English down in Parc Fermé to chat with one of the podium finishers. It is Tom Sykes.
Tom Sykes, a podium to start the season, and a good performance here at Phillip Island, a good race.
Yeah, I can't believe it in one respect, because where we were on testing, we never had initial lap time, blah, 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 and struggled in the 2-day test with a couple of things, and then yesterday just putting little bits of the jigsaw together, and I mean, I have to say, to finish on the podium not far behind those two in Phillip Island is a big positive for me. I think that's the only second ever podium I've had in this circuit, so gives me a lot of confidence going forward. And we had some warnings. Today the track temperature has changed a lot, and it was a big tactical race. Really enjoyed it, but got close in some corners. I bet it was good to watch on the TV. Overall, relatively happy. Some warnings towards the end of the race. I had a couple very, very early on from the front of the bike, and seemed to settle down, but ultimately I think we did an acceptable race, and tomorrow's another day, and hopefully we can just improve a little bit on in some sections, but as of today, we can just move on. Podium at Phillip Island is my first target of flying all this way, and hopefully we can make it a little bit better for tomorrow.
Nice, Tom.
Cheers, thank you.
There we go, hearing from Tom Sykes. A bit harder than it looked outside, as Sykes said. It was certainly great to watch from the comfort of this chair in this quite good commentary box just on the start-finish line. Excellent result for Tom Sykes. He said himself, as we were saying a fair little bit through commentary, that this is a circuit he's never really gotten on with. So to start the year with a podium is great for Tom Sykes. And of course, he's only a couple of points behind his teammate, with 25 races still to come this year. Really, anything could happen in 2017. We'll soon hear from the man who won the race, and also Chaz Davies in just a little bit. As you can see, Parc Fermé very, very crowded. There's Stefan Bridle. Scores a point on his World Superbike debut with 15th. Looks like he is losing a lot of time through the Stoner corner, as he says. So, bit tricky for the German through turn 3. Understandable, as we said. Nicky Hayden was complaining a lot about the rear spinning yesterday during free practice. So still some work to do for that Honda, but you can guarantee that Tenkato team will eventually get that bike sorted. They have so much experience working with Honda products, and it'll come good in the end, as we see Sykes head back over to his team. Sip of water. Of course, you need lots of water when it is this hot outside. Pretty happy with the rest of his team there. There we can see Lowe's. What an incredible ride from the Yamaha rider. Really, really great for Alex Lowe's. Steve and I both thought he'd be fighting for 5th. I'm not going to lie, he did surprise us a bit with his pace, but great to see that he and the Yamaha are now gelling so well, and I cannot wait to see what he will do from pole position in race 2. He's definitely one to watch throughout this year and could surprise a fair few people. Certainly. And here we go down to Jonathan Rea with Steve English.
Jonathan Rea, perfect start to the season, but great fight at the front there with 6-7 riders for most of the race.
I don't know about a fight. Nobody was wanting to fight, to be honest. It was a little bit like a bicycle race, and I just made sure I was second wheel in the group always, or at the front. And when I was at the front, I was quite careful. But 2 times I tried to go away, and everybody came. Nobody wanted to go and push the pace forward, apart from Tom and Alex actually in the beginning. So when I found myself in the front with 3 to go, I just made sure I was quite defensive in the last sector of the race, and then I was able to bring it home. So to start the season with 25 points is exactly what I needed to do, especially after the end of last season, how that paid out. And hopefully we can just work step by step. Like I say, it was a strange race. Should have been much, much faster, but we did what we had to do in the end to bag 25 points.
Thanks, Joe.
Very, very, very interesting there from Jonathan Rea. What looked like a super ding-dong ditch battle to us seemed like it was a bit more tactical for Jonathan Rea. So, Steve did say that he saw Jonathan Rea sort of drop back a couple of times. Looks like that was all intentional from the current reigning world champion. Playing some games, thinks he could have gone faster. He'll be able to put his money where his mouth is tomorrow in race 2, when of course we do it all again, and he'll have to go very fast now, starting from 9th position way back on the 3rd row with that man there. number 7, Chaz Davies. But what a race it was, tactics or not, an absolutely thrilling way to start what is sure to be one of the best seasons ever for this World Superbike Championship. It's still way too early to tell, but it does look like number 1 and number 7 will resume their rivalry right at the front of this championship, with the likes of Sykes, Lowe's, maybe even Camia ready to pick up the pieces should anything happen. I cannot wait for race 2 tomorrow, and then eventually to head across to Thailand and start our tour all over the world in this 2017 season. In just a few moments, we'll be hearing from Chaz Davies, who finished second. As we said, under a 1/10 of a second separated him from first.
Chaz Davies, a 50th podium in World SBK, and a good fight with Jonathan at the front, just unfortunately coming off second best.
Yeah, it was important to get this first race out of the way and have some good points on the board. 25 is better than 20, but 20 is better than none, so definitely take that to get us started. I tried a bit of a different strategy to past years, and it didn't quite work out for the win. But the pace in general, the race was a weird one because it was very slow. Everybody was being really careful with the tyres. With the rear tyre, making sure not to give it any more hammer than the next guy. But in the end, I knew it was going to come down to myself, Johnny, and Marco. And in the end, just myself and Johnny were there and tried a couple of things. But this being one of our tougher tracks, it's hard. It's hard to actually get the strategy right to creep across in front of him. He's pretty easy to follow, but to actually beat him is something else in itself. So we'll have a little think and a little study for tonight and see if we can go one better tomorrow.
Thanks, Chaz.
Thank you.
Yet again, Chaz Davies echoing the thoughts of Jonathan Rea that the race was a bit slower than anticipated. Nobody wanting to push their tyres too hard. Here we just see a replay of Davies shoving up the inside of Tom Sykes at the Honda hairpin. Favourite overtaking point for a lot of people. One of only 2 first gear corners around the impressive Phillip Island circuit. And here we go, the 2 race leaders together. Well, 1 and 2, that is, of course, the positions that they would finish, as Davies just tried to slipstream into the line, couldn't quite do it on the Ducati. But as he said, go home, do a bit of homework, and figure out what to do yet again for tomorrow, when we'll have another 22-lap race, which, if it is even half as good as that race, we will be truly, truly blessed by this Phillip Island circuit. Hugs all round, especially between Jonathan Rea and Pere Riba, his crew chief there. No doubt already planning how to go even faster in race 2. Of course, they'll soon make their way up to the podium to celebrate in style. One of the advantages of having one race each day across Saturday and Sunday is that they can really enjoy it, can, spray the bubbly, because, of course, in years previous, riders sort of had an agreement not to spray each other, don't want any leather sticky for the second race. There we see Nicky Hayden walking back to the pits. 11th place, not too bad for Hayden, given how he felt that bike was developing. And, some super important data as well for that Honda team. Of course, when Hayden made his Superbike debut here, he finished 9th. So 2 places behind, still in the points, not too bad. Interesting to see what they can do for race 2. Let's listen to Lowe's a bit.
No confidence with the false neutral was terrible. The silver bike in the back was a bit better for the position in the corner. Yeah, not too bad. Honestly, now Christophe in the exit of 6, I feel a little bit flat, but the bike felt the same all the race, nice and constant, but a little bit flat.
Looks like he was hitting a bit of false neutrals into turn 10, and the bike feeling a bit flat there. So looking for a bit more power for that second race. Big swig of Monster there for Jonathan Rea as they wait to head out on the podium for the Yamaha Finance Australia round, the first round of the 2017 World Superbike Championship. Bit of a chat between the 2 teammates. Not too much small talk there from Jonathan Rea. Sunglasses on. Of course, you do need your sunglasses. It is incredibly a beautiful day here in Phillip Island. A great change from what we saw in testing. And there they go, on to the podium. All looking pleased as punch with that race, and so they should be. What an incredible result it was. Absolutely thrilling. Can't ask for much more from an opening race than what we saw there. There we see Sykes in 3rd, Chaz in 2nd, and then Jonathan on the top step. As you can see, both Chaz and Sykes a fair bit bigger. here we have the third place trophy presented to Tom Sykes. There we go, just waiting for everybody to get ready in position. There is Paul Edbrook, an MP and member of Frankstown City, working in the government here in Australia. Tom Sykes there getting his trophy and also getting a nice selection of flowers. Not quite sure what flowers they are. I'm sure there's some lovely native Australian flowers, maybe a couple of waratahs snuck in there, something nice like that. And here's Chaz Davies getting the same slightly bigger trophy for Davies. Excellent race from Davies, as we said. His strategy not quite working out, but still leaves this first race with 20 points. As he said, better than none. And here he is, your race 1 winner of 2017, Jonathan Rea, number 1, back on top. Try and do all the same again tomorrow. A big smile from Jonathan. His team ecstatic with that one. There you see Per Reaver and some of his crew cheering him on, and also one of the team members coming up to collect the team trophy as well. Big hug on the podium there. It really is a big family effort in a way for Jonathan and his team. You know, they all have a big WhatsApp group, Team 65. They really do get on. It really is a tight, close-knit bond between all of them. Absolutely excellent to see all the guys so happy after the race. Pose for a couple of photos, and then we'll soon have the national anthem. Round of applause there for Jonathan and all of the podium finishers as we hear the Japanese national anthem for Kawasaki. Round of applause there for Jonathan Rea and everybody else. Be sure to join us here again tomorrow for race 2, because as I said, if it's half as good as that one, then we are set for an absolute thriller. Of course, the new race format coming into effect as everybody sprays the Prosecco atop the podium. Everybody very, very happy with that one there. And they get to do it all again tomorrow. As I said, another 22-lap thriller coming up down here in Phillip Island in Australia. Cheers between the two teammates and Chaz Davies. No hard feelings between those three. Always great to see big respect between the top riders. When you're racing that close, you know, we saw from some of those onboards how close they are. You do need to respect your rivals a huge amount. We'll catch everybody tomorrow. as I was saying before, we will be back again tomorrow at 3 p.m. local time, which is in about 23 hours time. If you are anywhere else in the world, be sure to check your watches. Be sure to check worldsbk.com, where you can go and see all of the timings for tomorrow. Not only will we have another thrilling World Superbike race, we'll also have what is sure to be a scorcher for World Super Sport. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Harry Lloyd. I've been joined by Steve English. Great work by Steve, as always, and I can't wait for tomorrow. And here we go for the standings. It's not too difficult with the old math for this one. It is, of course, Jonathan Rea who won that race within a 10th, gets 25 points for that one. Will start 9th on the grid. Chaz Davies 2nd, starts 8th. Tom Sykes 3rd, starts 7th. Alex Lowe's on pole position. Leon Camia on the front row in 2nd, ahead of Flores. Race 2 is going to be absolutely stunning. Jordi Torres moves up to 4th. Randy Krumnacher, he starts in 10th place, ahead of Nicky Hayden, Marcos Reiderberger, Roman Ramos, Alex De Angelis, Stefan Bradl, Ricardo Russo, Badavini, and Jezek there as well. Marco Melandri will have to fight back hard if he wants to get back on the podium again. Josh Brooks, huge disappointment for him, and Savadori, still learning, only his 2nd year, but so much potential for him as well. And then here we go to the Riders' Championship. As we said, the math's not too hard. 25 for Jonathan, 20 for Chaz Davies in 2nd, 16 for Tom Sykes, ahead of Lowe's. Great start to the season for him, and Camio in 4th and 5th. Flores there 6th, ahead of Countryman, Torres, Laverty, Vandermark, and Krumnacher getting a top 10 on his debut. Kawasaki lead the Manufacturers' Championship ahead of Ducati, with Yamaha then there in 3rd place. MV Augusta ahead of BMW and Aprilia. Who would have thought that? And then Honda there, pretty tough race for them with only 5 points, thanks to Nicky Hayden's 11th place finish. And here we go with the Teams Championship, obviously combining the results from your 2 riders. It is Kawasaki lead 41, ahead of Aruba.IT Racing Ducati 24. Chaz Davies, Paddy Yamaha with another 20 points as well. Solid result from them, ahead of Altea BMW, MV Augusta with their 1 rider. Barney, Milwaukee, Aprilia, obviously only 1 rider finishing the race for them. Red Bull, Honda, World Superbike Team, 6 points, same as Kawasaki, Pacetti Racing with Randy Krumnacher, as we said, the birthday boy, celebrating his birthday a day late, but with his first World Championship points. And here we go, what was a highlight of the race. What a race this was. You could pick any lap as a highlight, but it was Jonathan Rea who initially got a good drag off the line, but then Marco Melandri hit a great lead, and no doubt Melandri will try and do it all again tomorrow. As I mentioned before, please do come and join us again when we hit the fantastic Phillip Island circuit at 3 p.m. local time for 22 laps or 97.79 kilometers of bar-banging World Superbike action. Is only going to get faster, it's only going to get better as the season goes on, and I, for one, cannot wait for it. We're going to see all 3 of these riders and more battling it out at the front, not just tomorrow, but throughout the rest of this 13-round championship. Alex Lowe's there, 1 to watch for tomorrow, now starting on pole position. And Will Doohan corner again, see frantic action when the lights go out at 3 p.m. local time. Of course, Steve English and I will be on air for about 2:30 local time to get everyone brought up to speed with what has been happening overnight in this fantastic World Superbike paddock down here in Australia. A beautiful country, has produced some absolutely beautiful racing between the best riders in the world. Jonathan Rea there, enjoying his victory with the fans, the people who make it all possible, and then coming back to greet his team with a big high five and a handshake for taking to the top step of the podium once again. Jonathan Rea, his 89th podium by my count, and his 39th World Superbike win, celebrating just as hard as his first win way back in 2009 in Misano. It's been a long journey for Jonathan Rea, and we'll catch every